Welcome. This is Voices Illuminated with Judy Liman. I am wearing several striking, beautiful bracelets. They are stacked mixed metals, black rhodium and gold. The middle one has the word strength. And also I'm wearing a great cigar band ring. They are created by today's guests. My guest is Freida Rothman, who's an international recognized jewelry designer from Brooklyn, a second-generation jeweler and the mother of 5, inspired by the legacy of 4 grandparents who survived the Holocaust. Freida has built a brand that reflects resilience, beauty, and strength. Her jewelry is worn by women all over the world. And through her Women of Strength campaigns, she celebrates remarkable women and their stories. During Women's History Month, it feels especially meaningful to welcome a designer whose work honors and celebrates women. Freida, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. Now, your story begins with an extraordinary family legacy. How have your grandparents' resilience shaped the way you live your life and built your business?
I would say it's absolutely everything. It's in my DNA. It's who I am. It's how I treat my employees. It's how I speak. It's how I treat my family and my children. I grew up across the street from my grandparents. So they were like a second set of parents to me, and they had a tremendous impact in my life. As you mentioned, all 4 of my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and both of my grandmothers were survivors of Auschwitz. And the grandmother that lived across the street from me was 17 years old when she was sent to Auschwitz, so she was a teenage girl. And my other grandmother was 14 years old. She was the oldest of 9 children, and everyone in her family was either gassed or killed in Auschwitz. And my other grandmother, also Auschwitz survivor, she survived with 3 brothers as well. And they inspire me till today. I have their pictures hanging behind me in my office at work, because every time I think that I'm having a hard day or something is not going well in my life, I see their faces and I see their picture, and it reminds me that everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Their focus on resilience, always putting one foot in front of the other. I'm not going to say there weren't hard days. There were hard days. My grandmother couldn't sleep a full night. There were many, many nightmares, and we had to be there for her and calm her down. But their focus on being proud of who they were, being proud Jews, still remaining faithful in who they were, keeping Shabbos, to me, I'd be like, I'm done. And the fact that they continued to keep us as proud Jews, to raise us that way, was very inspiring to me. And actually, I had somebody ask me once, Freida, how do you do it? One of my employees that, she's like, how do you keep Shabbos and eat kosher? Like, how do you do it all the time? Why is it so important to you? I said, because of my grandparents. They were persecuted for this, and that's why I need to keep moving forward and make sure that this is part of my life. So a quick answer to that is yes, they are very much part of my day-to-day, even though they're no longer with us, because I keep their pictures near me and to always remind me to move forward. Every day, keep moving forward.
Well, they saw horrific, and they lived through horrifying events and things that were terrible. And then they came to America, and how did they pivot to the horrors to something positive?
I think that's a question I still ask myself. How did you do it? Like, I don't understand it per se, but I think it's just that every day was a new day and a new opportunity, and you cannot look backwards. You can only look forwards. And that was their mentality. Because if you get stuck in what happened, you can never move forward. So they were always, listen, they didn't necessarily, my father started this jewelry business. One of my grandfathers was a house painter, and till he couldn't paint any longer. And the other grandfather, till his early 90s, worked in a grocery store bagging groceries. And they just did what they had to do just to keep some food, on the table and keep their family alive. And what brought them joy was the children that they had. Their grandchildren brought them tremendous joy. And, very, very big focus on family. And that is what brought them some smiles to their day. And I think, like I said, just looking on what can I do today to accomplish.
So Brooklyn's got such a personality, right? So what inspires you about Brooklyn?
So when I started, let me take you a little bit back on how this brand even started and why my grandparents play such a tremendous role and why Brooklyn plays a role in my business. So my father started his company at the age of 18 years old. His parents were Holocaust survivors. His father was a house painter. His older sister, the first child born to my grandparents, was born with cerebral palsy. And he had an older brother, and he was the youngest of three, and he just wanted his parents to have a good life. He saw how hard they were working. Their lives were never easy. My grandmother was his second wife. The first wife and 2 kids were gassed in Auschwitz. And he was trying to figure out a way, how do I bring some joy to my parents' life? How can I give them everything in the whole world? And he decided at 18 years old, he's going to go sell some jewelry and bring back some money and put it down on the kitchen table and give his parents some money. And he started his business in sterling silver jewelry. His older brother said, I'll sell gold jewelry, you sell silver jewelry. That's how we'll remain peaceful, and you do your thing. And my father started buying some chains, imported it from Italy. First, he started buying locally. Then he would get into his car, drive across the country, bring back cash, and give it to my grandparents. And that's how he started his business. I started my business. Originally, I was in private label. I've always been an artist. I've always sketched and painted. And I started working, originally there was people that would call my dad, ask them to manufacture. As his business grew, he owned his own factories and really built his business and was able to give his parents a really good life. And I started working in private label first. I would work with other major jewelry designers. I would hand sketch and I would put together collections for them, and they would manufacture it through my dad's factories. And over time, my husband, Matt, kept telling me, Freida, you're really good at this. I think you can start your own company and start your own brand. But I was very hesitant to do that because I was very happy being behind the scenes. I also had 3 little kids at that time. And I was really nervous to put my face, my name to something. Like, it's a big responsibility. You put your name on something, you have a brand. Like, that was a big deal. And I kept saying no, no, no. Until my husband I came to work one day, I couldn't even reach my desk. And there's boxes around my desk. And I'm like, Matt, what's going on here? And he goes, I don't know, open the boxes, you'll see. And I opened these boxes, and they're full of jewelry displays with the name Freida Rothman written all over it. And he goes, this was about 13 years ago, and he goes, Freida, I believe in you. I just spent all of our savings on these displays. So I think it's time for you to get to work. You can do this. And the Freida Rothman brand was started. But I had to come up with a collection. So I really appreciated the time that I had spent working with other designers because I knew, as a painter, as an artist, I wanted to design a collection that has meaning and tells a story. So when I sat down to pen to paper and I said, what is going to be that very first collection? I decided that I was going to dedicate my jewelry to the city that I grew up in, which is Brooklyn, raised my 5 kids there as well. And I started designing pieces that were inspired by the first piece that I designed was from the manhole covers on the streets of New York City. I was inspired by my grandparents also, who lived in Brooklyn with me, and how they were able to find the good in their life. And that became my brand mission, finding the beauty in places that you least would expect it. So manhole cover, you would never think that that's a source of inspiration for a piece of jewelry. That became the first piece. You'll notice as you're wearing a lot of pieces that have the darkened metal. We call that the Brooklyn grit, using the black texture symbolizing the streets of New York City. So finding areas, and I purposely look for super gritty spots, train tracks, chain link fences, and transform it into something beautiful. And that is the underlying mission of the brand. The jewelry is beautiful when you look at it, but knowing the inspiration behind it, I think makes each piece more and more special.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
I love this.
Thank you.
So you have a Women in Strength series. What is that about?
So that's actually a campaign that I never thought would take off as it actually did. I was sitting around with my team about literally 6 years ago, and we were talking about female empowerment. It was a lot we were hearing about in the news, and everybody was talking about it, and women empowerment. And they turned to me and they said, Freida, who do you consider to be an empowered woman? Like, if you were to pick anyone in the world. And I said, you guys, you know the answer to that. It's actually two people. It's my two grandmothers. Like, I don't know anybody more empowered than them, coming literally from the ashes and rebuilding their life, learning a new language, getting married, having children. I think that is the most empowering thing ever. And they are literally the epitome of an empowered woman. And, as we're sitting at the table and we're talking, and they said, Freida, I'm hearing you talk about your grandmothers. They were no longer alive at the time. They had passed a couple of years before. Would we be able to do some kind of campaign where we can talk about their stories or talk about Holocaust survivors? And you have to remember, I'm in the fashion space. I'm in the jewelry space. And I turned to them, I'm like, there's no way. We can't touch Holocaust survivors and fashion space. There's no way we can. I don't see how those two even mix. Like, I just can't wrap my head around it. And but they were like, Freida, you're so passionate about it. It is who you are. Is there any way we can kind of combine or tell some kind of story about Holocaust survivors and strong women? And I said, you know what? Best case scenario, the best way we'll get an answer, I'll call a Holocaust survivor that I know very well and tell her I have some kind of idea where maybe we can talk about her stories of strength or something like that and see what she says. So this, I think, is just great advice in general for people who have ideas. Just do it. Just you have an idea, go for it, try and see what the people are going to say. So I picked up the phone. I think we were like an hour into our meeting. I picked up the phone and I dialed this woman called Dolly Rabinowitz. You might know her. She's a Holocaust survivor, an Auschwitz survivor. I called up Dolly. She knows me since I'm a little girl. Dolly was never able to have children after her experiences in Auschwitz. And we became like her adopted grandchildren for her. I was very, very close friends with her great niece. And I kept up with Dolly throughout the years. And I called up Dolly and I said, Dolly, I have this idea. I would love, I have this fashion company and, I'm in the jewelry business. I would love to honor you and like maybe share your stories of Holocaust survivors. Had no idea then how I'm going to combine jewelry and their stories, but I just want to know if she was even willing to participate in something like this. And she said, you know what, Freida? I get together with other Holocaust survivors. This was on a Monday when I called her, on Wednesday for lunch here in Brooklyn. I don't really understand exactly what you're asking of me. I didn't either understand what I was asking of her. And she says, come join me on Wednesday for lunch. There's going to be other survivors here. Share this idea, what you have in mind, and we'll let you know if we like it or not. I said, perfect. It gives me 48 hours to put together some kind of plan, but I knew in my heart that it would be a tremendous honor to share stories from women or Holocaust survivors, because people in the fashion industry don't hear from them. I attend a lot of very fancy events, never hear them talk about the Holocaust ever. So Wednesday comes around. I go to this place in Brooklyn. I walk into this room. There's about 25 elderly women sitting around the table. They're eating pizza. I was expecting them to have some chicken and rice, but they were eating pizza. And they get together twice a week. And I walk in, I introduce myself. A lot of them knew my grandmother, so they already felt comfortable with me. They knew that I was coming from a good place. And I did have some time to think about it. And I decided that I wanted to design a piece of jewelry. I had never done jewelry that had words on it, ever. And when I think of my grandmothers and I think of Holocaust survivors, I think of the word strength, like the enormous strength that it took for them to overcome what they did. And I told them I want to design a special bracelet that has the word strength on it. And I want to do some kind of charitable component with it. And would they be willing to be the face of this story and share their stories of strength? And would anybody in this room want to be a part of it? And the room was quiet. And I'm like, oh God, did I mess up? Like, are they going to say, Freida, no, this is not happening? And I'm like, so what do you think? And they turned to me and they said, Freida, we're just blown away that there's a young person who still cares to hear what we have to say. And that was their response to me. And all of these women came over to me, were touching me on I'll never forget, because their touch is so meaningful. And each of them were sharing their stories with me. And one woman in particular, she was maybe 4'10". She was a tiny little lady. She comes over to me and she tells me, when I was 9 years old, my family left me at a non-Jewish farmhouse. This farmer said he was going to watch me while my family was taken away. Obviously, I never saw my family again. And I was hidden in the farmhouse, and it became unbearable for me. I was 9 years old. I couldn't handle it. I had nothing to eat. And I decided I was going to run away to the forest. And I ran away to the partisans. I found the partisans in the woods. And I said, can I join you? And they said, you're way too small. You're too short. You're not going to make it. Go back where you came from. We can't help you. And she ran back and she stayed in the farmhouse because I'm not even going to tell you what I ate. But I think she was there for a few years. And then she survived the war. She got married at the age of 15 because she had no one left. And she rebuilt her family. She had 5 kids living in Brooklyn. And I'm looking at her and I said, have you ever shared your story with anybody? And she tells me, no, I haven't shared. Like, who? There's so many of us that have survived and, everybody has an interesting story. And I said, you have any clue how you can inspire people to, with resilience and strength? And, I listened to her story and I went home. Obviously, it was a very meaningful day. And I decided I have to do something more for these women. What more can I do to get their stories out? Because we have living, breathing Anne Franks living amongst us that people can touch and feel and hear from, whose stories have never been told. So I decided, this was at the end of 2019, tail end of 2019. I decided, and we know what came in 2020, but I decided in December of 2019, I was going to have a big party hosting Women of Strength, honoring these women, and I was going to invite every major news outlet to come to this event. So I hosted it in my office. We had close to 50 Holocaust survivors in my studio. We had, from the New York Times to NBC News, ABC News, Associated Press, everybody came. And these women were taken to different rooms, and they were able to share their stories with the world. It went international. I just remember that day standing in the room, and I just had tears coming down my face. I just felt like I was doing something for them that I know my grandmothers would have been so proud. They weren't there with me that day, but my parents were there. I kept my kids home from school. We sang the national anthem. You should have seen these women singing the national anthem that day. It was an incredible day. And when the campaign launched, we actually saved the campaign to launch it on Wednesday. I'm sorry, in March, because we knew March is Women's Month, like this month now. And we all know what happened in March of 2020. March of 2020, COVID came. We launched this campaign about strong women and inspired so many people across the country to get through such a dark chapter in our times. And they were able to share their stories. And I got letters from all over the world pouring in.
I bet.
Thank you for sharing these stories of strength about these women. And it went like all over
international.
The world. It went international.
So I'm curious also, you have now had subsequent campaigns. Can you actually, can you tell me what the current campaign is and touch on some of the others as well?
Absolutely. So what kept me going was after we launched this campaign, I thought it was just going to be a one and done, Women of Strength, 2020, Holocaust survivors. When I saw how inspired people were, I told the team, we need to do this every year in March. Every year, I would like to honor women that the fashion industry or women that don't get spoken about, real women with real stories that are real heroes that have gone through challenges in their life and turned it around and done something good with it. So this past year, I can go through the other years, but this past year, it actually just launched yesterday. In the 25th year of 9/11, we are honoring widows of 9/11, 2 widows and 1 daughter. Her dad passed away or was killed that day on 9/11. And we're honoring them this whole month. We're going to be sharing interviews and their stories of strength and resilience, and really to inspire others about how people can go through such a dark time in their life and then continue to move forward. And that is my mission every single March on International Women's Day. We honor different groups. So we've honored women in our military. I was invited to come to West Point and speak to the young cadets there in our year right after our Holocaust survivors were our women who serve our country. We've honored women in healthcare coming out of COVID. Again, these women are from all across the country. They're not just New York based. Then I've also had the honor we did women in sports through the LPGA. We honored some of those women. We partnered with the Ladies Pro Golf. And then I also flew down to Arkansas to speak about female farmers. We call them the stewards of the land. And actually, just this last week on Tuesday, one of the women that we honored from the female farmers just won the nomination for Senate.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so that's
amazing.
how brilliant these women are.
That's awesome.
So it was incredible. And then we continued, and this year we're honoring widows of 9/11.
That's laudable, and thank you.
Thank you, of course.
It's important. I'm just curious. You have this gorgeous jewelry here, and everybody has asked. They said, "Oh, you're going to have Freida Rothman on. She knows how to stack jewelry." So how do you do that? What's the secret sauce of stacking?
So I always say the secret sauce to stacking is stack in odd numbers. Because if you stack in odd numbers, it's a lot more appealing to the eye. Also, when you set your table, you set up your floral arrangements, do them in 3s or 5s, picture frames. Everything in odd numbers is a lot more appealing. So 3 stack on your finger, stacking on your hands, and it just looks much better.
That's good to know. I always buy in 3s too.
There you go.
I do.
It looks better. It's
interesting.
visually
I always
more
liked
appealing.
it.
Yeah.
And I bought my strength the bracelet also, as I mentioned in before. So I know you've been asked this a lot, but it's still amazing to me that you're a mom of 5, you're a wife, you're a family lady. How do you do it? You have a big business. How do you do it?
So that is the number one question that I get all the time. You left out one part. I have 2 granddaughters.
Oh.
Yes. I have 2 granddaughters too. So I really have to say, I thank God I have good children. I really have good children. But I do have help. I don't do it alone. I have an amazing team at work that really, really helped me, support me to get through the day. Obviously, it took time to build that. I did do a lot of it myself. But as my business continued to grow, I added amazing people around me. I have help at home. And like I said, I have a good husband and good children. My parents don't live that far away. It does take a village. It does take a village to raise a child. So
where can we get your jewelry?
you can find it at FreidaRothman.com or very likely at fine retailers near you, or at Nordstrom, at Neiman Marcus, high-end retailers. You definitely can find the collection there.
So when your patrons wear your jewelry, when women will be wearing it, what do you want them to feel when they put your pieces on?
So this is something I always wish that every person who wears a Freida piece understands the inspiration and the story behind it, because every season I design a different collection, but it's all inspired on grittiness and turning it into something beautiful. So I want you, when you put the necklaces on or you put the bracelets on, I want you to say, today I choose positivity. Today I will see the glass half full. I'm going to find beauty in anything that I see. And when you put it on in the morning, say, today I'm going to choose good, and today I choose positivity.
Well, do you want to say something to your grandparents in closing? What would you say to them?
So I would say, first of all, that I hope that they're proud of me. And I hope to continue to make them proud through the legacy of my children, to honor them and to never forget their story. I hope that my kids can continue to remain proud of their faith, especially in today's world, not be afraid, stand strong, stand tall, make my grandparents proud, and of course, make God proud.
That's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Freida, you were amazing.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for sharing your story today.
Of course.
I want to thank our audience who visually and who listened to us. I'm thanking a lot of people. Special thanks to Priscilla Dolan, our director today, and to Bernie Fershpan, who created this beautiful studio. This is Voices Illuminated with Judy Liman from the studios of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. Until next time, thank you.